Black belt preparedness. That's what I want to talk about today. There's a lot of lessons there. As some of you know, I spent a lot of years in the martial arts, and I tell you what, I expected Chuck Norris to do this video, but since he hasn't, I will. Did you all know that Chuck is a prepper? Yes, he is. So's his wife, by the way. And they put out a lot of good stuff, but they don't put it out on YouTube. Uh, I was going through a box the other day, and I'm just I got boxes all over the place with stuff in them. I was going through a box and I found this. You know what this is? That's a black belt. It's not mine. I have no idea where mine is, to be honest. But and it's never been worn. And there's a lesson in there that I want to talk about because I can compare preparedness and where a lot of people are in preparedness to the martial arts, to the black belt, and the lessons that a lot of people can learn. So we're going to talk about that. Before that, I want to remind you that you can again get my books directly from me, the Stonemont series, the Reversion, the Revival, the Renewal, and Appeal to Heaven, the Blessings of Freedom, Hostages to Fortune, and the very latest one on Wings Like Eagles. These things are selling like hotcakes, and you can get them. You've always been able to get them through Amazon. The link's down below, but you can get them again through me, ordering directly from me. I stopped taking orders here on our website for a while because we were just so backed up on orders, but I think we're caught up now, so you can do it again. And you can. They say it's the best series for preparing, surviving, and rebuilding after a total collapse of everything. In a great story, a lot of lessons. I hide all the lessons in a great story, so you'll be learning more than you can imagine, while you just get all caught up in the characters and the stories, and you will love it. If you get them through the website, I get to sign them for you, and I like doing that and write a little note in there because I love my relationship with my readers. And you can buy them as a set also through our website. Can't do that through Amazon, but you can get them as a set through us. And when you get them as a set, we toss in the Stonemont notebook, which is cool. People love it. I use mine all the time. The other thing, just to remind for those who don't know, we have a new line of for those of you who feel that Donald Trump is an improvement over Joe Biden, and I hope that's most of you. We have come out with a new line of inaugural mugs with some of his sayings on it, some of his quotes from his inaugural address, and this one says, "From this moment, America's decline is over." This one says, "I was saved by God to make America great again." That's not sacrilegious. He apparently believes that, and so do many of us. Okay. This one says, "The golden age of America begins right now." And the fourth one is, "In America, the impossible." This is my favorite one. "In America, the impossible is what we do best." And those are just beautiful, as you can see. They have the sidebar on there. It says Donald Trump 47 or 45, 47. And you can buy them individually, but on our website, stonemont.us, you can also buy them as a set. You can get each one as four of each one, or you can get the whole set, one of each of these. I'm going to hold them back there like that. And there is a real special price for these, and we pay the shipping up on our website, stonemont.us. You'll love them. Buy them for yourself. Get them as a gift for your friends. And America is turning a corner right now, and we have hopes for that. All right, well, let's get back to black belt preparedness. I put up a funny meme on the Patreon site channel today. Those of you who are with us over there saw it. If you're not, feel free to join us. The link's down below. You'll like it. I put a lot of extra stuff over there. And it's a kid getting his butt whipped. He's down on the ground, and this other kid's laying into him, and the kid on the ground is going, "Stop, stop! I'm a black belt," or something like that. And it says, and the funny thing is, it says what I have said so often. Johnny got his black belt because he was never late to class, and his parents' payments were never late. That's the way so many people get they're black belts. I'll tell you a couple of funny stories, and you're going to see how this applies to preparedness. Okay, I could tell you a bunch of funny stories. I'll probably just put in a couple. Uh, when I was teaching in my gym years and years and years ago, maybe I should back up and tell you a little bit about the black belt. Okay, again, this has never been worn, because if it had been worn, it wouldn't be black. If it had been worn very much, it'd be almost white. The tradition of the black belt comes, and many people think that the black belt means expert. That's what people who don't know any better think. It means you've reached the top. And what it really means is you've reached the beginning. Okay? In the old tradition of belts, back in Okinawa, okay, they just would have a cloth belt, just white, long, like with their gi, their pajamas, their fishing outfits. And it started white. Well, they never washed their belt, because there was this idea, how these things get started. You'll wash the knowledge out of your belt. And over the years, it became darker and darker and darker and darker, because it never got washed, right? And so that's where this idea of the black belt came from. And now, when it came over to the West, Westerners loved patches and ranks and everything like that. Whereas the original intent of the Oriental martial arts was simply to learn. And Western martial arts, a lot of people don't know that pretty much every civilization has had their own martial art. But in the West, in order to market it, and that's what black belt is, it's a marketing thing. Then everybody wanted different colors, because, just like Boy Scouts or the military or the police, oh, I want that next rank, right? Okay, because then that shows how important I am, or how cool I am, or how good I am, or whatever. We love rank. I don't, but most people do. And so that's where this idea of the black belt came in. Now, if you see somebody who's been around for a long time, if you see a nice, clean black belt like this, they haven't done it much. Okay, they haven't done it much. You look at a guy who's until they start wearing their red belts and everything like that. You look at a guy who's been doing it for years and years and years, and his belt is almost white again, because he's used it so often. The dye wears out. Okay, I'll skip off of that. Maybe you all cared about that. Maybe you didn't. One night I was teaching at my gym, and I just tested out some white belts, and then I went over to a more advanced group, and I was working with them on things. Well, I heard some laughing. I told the white belts, go ahead and relax for a few minutes, and then I'll be back. I'll bring one of the senior people over, and we'll start you on your next level. And so I heard some talking and some laughing and stuff like that. So I walked back over. I said, "What you guys talking about?" And they said, "Well, we were just watching the other group, and we were just wondering. We really want to see what black belt techniques are." And what I told them is, don't worry about black belt techniques. Worry about black belt understanding. There's a lot of people that go through the martial arts, and they get their ranks for what they do in the dojo, or the dojang, or the kun, or whatever it is, depending on the style, and they never apply it. The vast majority of people in the martial arts never have a chance to apply it, because we don't live in a world really where people get into fights that much, and the only fights they get into is in the dojo, and there are rules applied there. Okay. And what's the difference between a sport and real rules? Okay. What's the difference between training and real rules? And when all you have is training without experience, you are not yet. Let me put it this way. When you start getting into real, that's when your learning begins. And that was the story of the black belt. That those of us who know what it is, when somebody reaches their black belt, they have shown that they have put in the time, they have reached, not just that they know the techniques, but they have shown an emotional and mental strength and standard and resilience to indicate that they are now really ready to start learning. Simple as that. It means that you now have the basics. Now, interesting thing there is, after, at least in my system, I taught a lot of other techniques as people went up in the ranks. Now, I only awarded one black belt in all the years that I taught. Only one. And any decent school awards very few. You see all these places around at the strip malls, I call them pajama dancers, where they're full of kids, right? All these 12-year-olds getting black belts. I had a doctor come to me one time, and he was telling me, he said he was all excited because he was going to go see his niece test for her black belt. He knew who I published a martial arts magazine at the time, and I said, "Well, that's great. That's what does she study?" And he told me what's and that didn't it was not a legitimate system, and so I tried to be polite, and I said, "Oh, okay." I says, "How old is she?" Oh no, he said something like, "Yeah, we're really proud she's only 12." And I said, "12? How can somebody get a black belt at 12?" And of course, I knew, but it's insulting to somebody who has actually done it to see all these young people getting black belts. He says, "Well, yeah, she's 12." So, and I guess he could see from my demeanor that I didn't like that. He said, "Well, what's wrong?" And I said, "Well, there's no way that a 12-year-old should get a black belt." "Well, why not? She's able to do everything that the older people are able to do." And I said, "Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. If a 12-year-old can do everything that a 25-year-old can do, then the standards aren't high enough. Simple as that." And he got a little huffy, and he said, "Well, I don't know." And I said, "Listen, let me ask you this. What if I went down and I rented a place in a strip mall, and I decided to open up Steve Smith's medical school, and I published it, and I says, 'Come in to get your doctorate degree.' And the kids would come in, or their parents would bring them in, and I'd teach them to say some things in Latin, and how to put a Band-Aid on, and give them a little black bag, and as long as after a year or two, as long as their parents' checks didn't bounce, I'd make him a doctor." And he said, "Well, that's preposterous." He says, that's not nice. I said, "Well, it's exactly the same thing." He says, "I have years and years of medical school." And, I said, "Well, you don't have any idea how many years of experience a real black belt has, not just in the dojo, but in the world." You see, in real martial arts, nobody, well, in the old days, you would have people who actually had used it in life. Now, there are some, like Chuck Norris. I'll probably put his picture used as a thumbnail. He won't mind. He's a good guy. Now he was a sport fighter. He never really fought real. He fought sport and in the movies, right? But he was a legitimate black belt. He's legitimate. But to really test the effectiveness and the knowledge of a person, you need the real world. You need to have used it in real life. Now, I'll tell you something here. I had an opportunity. I lived a life that I had the opportunity to use these things. Okay. You will never use, gosh, I could bring so many things into this. I don't know that I ever used a traditional classical martial arts technique in my real world encounters. Let me put it that way. But I used the concepts. See? And when I taught people as they went up through the ranks in my system, I would teach them more difficult and complex techniques. But rarely would they ever use any of those in real life. Now, so why did I teach them? The purpose of that was that it increased their ability to use basic techniques well. Does that make sense? Probably doesn't make a lot. You have to think about it. Maybe you had to be in the system to really understand it. But the basics are always going to be your go-tos. But the more you understand complexities, the better you're going to be at the basics. Is that esoteric enough? Is that martial artsy enough for you? Well, it's true. Okay. And how I apply this to preparedness is that the basics are easy. And a lot of people get the basics. And then some people get up to, I got the beans, rice, Band-Aids, bullets, all these kinds of things, and they're able to rattle off a whole bunch of things. They're able to rattle off the same things that everybody else can rattle off. Okay. And so now they think that they are a black belt. But they don't realize something. They have not reached the point to where they know it all or are competent in a real situation. They have only then reached the point to where they are ready to start really learning. They are this black belt that has never been used in the real world. And so they stop. They stop learning. And that's why, in my book series, I have people tell me all the time how much they've learned. And many of them are very experienced. They would consider themselves preppers. But I've had people tell me that they've learned something on almost every page. I've had people tell me that reading through the Stonemont series, they found things the second time through, reading it through, that they totally missed the first time. The third time through, they found things, they learned things that they missed the first and second time. And I've had people who have read through the whole thing 5 times that say they're still seeing things and learning things they missed all the previous times. You see, that's what understanding is. That's what layering is. It's kind of like reading the Bible. I am in no way comparing my books to the Bible. But a lot of people have read the Bible or think they've read the Bible. But if they keep going back and keep going back and keep going back, they go, oh, wow, I didn't. That means something, and I didn't catch that before. I didn't understand that as well before. See what I mean? Same thing with the Stonemont series. Same thing with preparing as a whole. Same thing with martial arts. Once you get the basics, now you're ready to learn. You have not completed the course. You have not become a black belt. You have not become a PMP, a preparedness-minded person. Well, you might be preparedness-minded, but you haven't developed your understanding to the extent that you should. And you would probably like to. And a lot of people think they have reached a level that they haven't because they have the outward trappings on it. I earlier just put one up on Patreon before I put this one up about guns for women. There are some, and I don't put gun stuff on YouTube much anymore because here again, there are so many people who think they know more than they do when it comes to guns because they've read a lot of stuff and they've gone to the range a lot. They don't have the experience to know whether they actually know the things they think they know, but they're really sure about what they know. But they don't have any experience to back it up with. But I have put, so that's kind of what I was explaining on the video I did on Patreon for women and guns. And it dispels a lot. It goes entirely against what 90% of the people out there are saying. You know why? Because 90% of the people out there are just regurgitating what they've heard someone else say, but they don't have the experience. So that's the important thing. So the lesson today is this. Real preparedness is much more complex than most people think. That's why so many people will come on here and say, well, it's impossible to be prepared for everything. Well, because they have stopped learning, they have stopped preparing, they have stopped at the point that they now feel comfortable. Okay? They think they're to the point they need to be. Anything more than that, they don't really understand. They're done learning. They have reached that point to where they feel, okay, that I've reached my goal. They don't realize that there's no such thing as a goal in life or in prepping or in martial arts or anything else that's important. It's a process, and it's a continual pursuit of learning and understanding. Remember what I said to those white belts when they were saying, we can't wait to see black belt techniques. Don't worry about black belt techniques. Worry about black belt understanding. That comes from learning a lot and then getting experience on application. Does that make sense? Okay. I hope that it did. I know I could really go into the weeds on this stuff, and I have in the past. I have talked for hours on this stuff, but you all don't want to hear hours on it. That's the thing. Realize that reaching a certain level doesn't mean you stop. It means you keep learning and keep growing and keep progressing. And it'll not only make you more prepared if it ever comes to where you need that, but it'll improve your life greatly today. Okay? All right. That's the thing. Remind you one more time. I may not be on here for the next few days. We'll see. I have something going on. Maybe I'll tell you about it. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But just to remind you, you can get my books again through our website, stonemont.us. And if you do that, I get to sign them for you. Amazon gets them to you fast. I get them to you signed. Okay. But I get to sign them and write a little note in there for you, and we'll get them out to you. And if you would like a set of these beautiful mugs, the inaugural series through a new company that I have, because I like to be my own supplier. These are just gorgeous. Go again to the Stonemont website, stonemont.us, and order you a set. Order a set for a friend or whatever. Order a set, send them to Donald Trump. He might like them, okay? And you can get these. They're a great deal. They're beautiful, and you will love them. And with that, I'll let you go. Remember, never stop learning. Never think that you've reached the epitome of it, because you'll have a tendency to think, well, maybe not you. Hopefully not you. There's a lot of people out there think they know a lot more than they actually do, and you don't want that to be you, because, remember, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And how well is well? Different for everybody, but you're going to live as well tomorrow as you have prepared to live. So keep that in mind. You all have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.